Welcome to today's math lesson on mean absolute deviation. Our do now reads which coordinate grid shows a graph of y is equal to x minus 2. So to start off, we have to identify what our slope is and what our y-intercept is. So our slope, since there's no number in front of the x, we know that it's going to be a 1. Every variable has an invisible number if there's no number in front of it, and that's going to be 1. And then our y-intercept in this case is not just 2, but it's -2. So we're now going to go through and through the process of elimination, we're going to eliminate any of the answers that do not have a y-intercept of -2 and a positive slope. So A has a y-intercept of +2, but we need it to have a y-intercept of -2, so it's not A. B has a y-intercept of +2, so it's not B. C has a y-intercept of -2, and it has a positive slope. So it can very well be C, but let's make sure by eliminating D. D has a y-intercept of -2, but it has a negative slope. So our answer is C. Our TEK for today is 8.11b. Our lesson target is I will determine the mean absolute deviation from a data set, and we'll answer 4 problems on Google Forms for our DOL. The vocab words to go over today are data set, mean, and mean absolute deviation. So a data set is just a set of numbers. For example, let's just say our data set includes the number 6, 7, 8, and 9. To find the mean, we have to add up the numbers on top, so that's going to be our numerator. And then on bottom, we're going to have to divide it by the total number of numbers. So in this case, we would add 6 plus 7 plus 8 plus 9 first, and then we divide by 4 because there's 4 numbers. So that's our mean. To find our mean absolute deviation, though, we're going to have to add a couple more steps. So we're starting with finding the mean. So step 1 is to find the mean. Step 2 is going to be to subtract each data set or each number by the mean. And step 3 is going to be to find the mean or the average of the differences. So just to go over the operations that are necessary at each step, step 1, finding the mean, we're going to be adding and dividing. For step 2, we're just going to be subtracting. Step 3, we're going to be adding and dividing again. So today's lesson is not hard. We are going to be needing to use a calculator or Desmos to help us. The biggest thing is that it just is time consuming. It takes a long time and it's easy to make mistakes because it's easy to just type the wrong number or forget to add a number. So this first I do reads, a barista at Starbucks served 10 large coffees. The amount in each large coffee is shown below. What is the mean absolute deviation of the data set? Says amounts in barista A's, large coffees in ounces, and then lists the 10 different amounts. So our first step is to find the mean or find the average. So to do that, we're going to add the numbers 19.1 plus 20.1 plus 20.9 plus 19.6 plus 20.9 plus 19.5 plus 19.2 plus 19.4 plus 20.3 plus 20.9. Okay, and then we're going to have to divide this by the total number of numbers that there are. And so there's 10 numbers, so that's why we're dividing by 10. I'm going to just copy and paste this info into Desmos. But the one thing that I have to remember to do is put a parentheses around all of these numbers. So I put a parentheses around all these numbers so that when I divide, it divides by the sum of all those numbers, not just the individual numbers. If you do not put a parentheses around all the numbers, and let's say we try to divide at the end, it's only going to divide that last number, and I'll show you the difference. So here's what the correct answer is. It's 19.99. So let me go ahead and type that out. Is equal to 19.99. And that's because if we add the top, we get 199.9, and then we divide by 10. So I'm going to highlight that because we're going to need that mean to do our next step. But let's say that we didn't type in the numbers with the parentheses, and then we try to divide by 10. Do you see how it gives us a completely different answer, 181.09, because it only divided that last number, that 20.9 divided by 10. So we need to make sure that we're calculating correctly, and especially if we're using Desmos, that we're writing the parentheses. Okay, on to our next step. Our second step is to find the difference, or the differences between the numbers and mean. Okay, for this step, I'm going to start over here. So we have 19.1 and we have 19.99. So I'm going to start with 19.99 minus 19.1, and that gives us 0.89. Then we have 20.1. So I'm going to start with the bigger number minus the mean, which is 19.99. And that is going to be 0.11. Then we have 20.9 minus 19.99, and that is equal to 0.91. Next, we have the 19.99 minus the 19.6, and that gives us 0.39. Afterwards, we have 20.9 minus 19.99, and that is 0.91. Subsequently, we have 19.99 minus 19.5, and that is going to be 0.49. Then it's 19.99 minus 19.2, which is 0.79. 19.99 minus 19.4, and that is 0.59. 20.3 minus 19.99, and that is 0.31. Finally, we have 20.9 minus 19.99, and that is equal to 0.91. So I'm going to highlight all those differences because we're going to need those numbers to do our last step. Our very last step is to find the average of these differences. To find the mean of the differences. So to do that, we're going to add up all those numbers. So that is 0.89 plus 0.11 plus 0.91 plus 0.39 plus 0.91 plus 0.49 plus 0.79 plus 0.59 plus 0.31 plus 0.91. And from here, we're going to divide by 10 again because that's the number of numbers. And we get 0.63. So 0.63 is actually our final answer. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight it. And then I'm going to draw arrows so that you guys know that we did all this work just to get the 0.63. And that number is our mean absolute deviation. So remember, for these kind of problems, it's about making sure that you're typing in the numbers correctly, checking the numbers, making sure that you're finding the differences of all of the numbers, not just a few of the numbers. Remember that you're not dividing by 10 always, or 2, which I noticed that today in class a lot of students did. You're dividing by the total number of numbers that there are. So now give it a try on the Google Form DOL. Thank you so much for following along in today's math lesson and see you in a future math video. Bye.